Okay, thank you for coming. This is Paths to Glory, a panel about the journey that many of us have taken in becoming filmmakers. We have a large panel and a very diverse panel tonight of stories, at least, on how folks got there. So if I could just give an introduction to everyone. I'm Bill Mulligan, indie filmmaker out of Sanford, North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Christina Trinity Velez Justo. I'm a composer for film and media and professor at University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I'm Tom Gore, student at Methodist University, actor, filmmaker.
My name is Christopher G. Moore. I'm a director, writer, editor, producer.
Richard Claiborne, a filmmaker, most of my background being professional community. I'm also a film teacher and used to teach at North Carolina School of the Arts, University of North Carolina School of the Arts, but now I'm back full-time in the industry.
Hi, I'm Angela Giddings. I'm an indie filmmaker with Sick Chick Flicks. Kind of got in a crazy way, but glad to be able to talk to you about it.
My name is Jason P. Buterin. I've never been to School of the Arts. I'm sure it's nice. I know people that have been there. I've driven by it a few times on my way to get tacos.
But you have been in films for School of the Arts. I have seen you as an actor in multiple School of the Arts films.
I have. Primarily a writer, director, producer, and then actor. I love acting for other people. I've acted in Chris Moore's films. I've acted alongside Tom Gore and Bill Mulligan. So I wear a lot of hats, but it's good because I'm lugging around an orange on a toothpick over here. So it works out well.
People often come up to us and they're super impressed about, you're a filmmaker, you make films, and I'll take it. But a lot of them just seem to think that this is something you have to, I don't know if they think we lucked into it or we inherited a lot of money or it was just something that we always wanted to do. And that may be the case for some of you. It wasn't the case for me. This is something that's really only about 15 years old for me. And it was pure luck. I've always loved movies, and I teach high school. Students said, my best friend's mom is making a zombie movie. Would you be interested? Yes. And from that completely, I know, but from that, to me, it's terrifying that from this completely random thing that could just as easily not have happened, you take that away, and you take a big chunk of the last 10 years away from me. I'm sure I would have done something else because you got to do something, but I don't know what it would have been. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't know any of you. And I can't really or want to really imagine what life would be like. So it can happen. It can happen late. I can tell, since most of you are younger, that's not your story though. So if you would all, and we got a lot of people, so keep it pithy, but make it as detailed as you want. Tell us the story of how you got into this incredible hobby.
Did you say pithy?
Pithy.
Nice. Okay. No, just well said. I just want to make sure I understood you correctly.
And even as the words were coming, I shouldn't say hobby, for a lot of you, it's a career. But even as the word pithy escaped my lips, I looked at it, who I'm talking to, and like, pfft. So, like I'm one to talk.
How did I get into filmmaking? Well, like most great art, because of a girl. My wife was foolish enough to keep going on dates with me while I was courting her. I was wooing her. I was pitching woo. And she got tired of walking out of movies with me, and like, they should have done this, they should have done this. The story show, I had all these should have and how I would have done it. So one night she just sort of got fed up, and she's like, all right, well then you do it. And then trying to counteract the logic of feminine wife, I was like, fine, I will then. And then so I got sucked into a screenwriting competition with the 48 Hour, and we were lucky enough to win an honorable mention for a weekend of just complete batshit insanity. I know I only get like 3 profanities, and that was one of them. I'm sorry, Jason.
I'm keeping track.
I'm trying to. And then, yeah, so I mean, we ended up getting involved with the 48 Hour, and that wasn't enough for me. So I wrote a thing called The Devil's Tramping Ground, and I started off primarily just as a writer. I had been a syndicated columnist, novelist, everything. I'd done all that kind of stuff like that for years. But got into writing. It was told that my writing style was way too directorial, and I put too much detail and blah, 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 blah in there. And the directors I was writing for, they just didn't get it. They got close, but they didn't quite get it. So I'm like, I'll do that too. So I kind of got into the directing side. And I had done the acting for a long time, but it just honestly snowballed just snowballed horribly, wonderfully out of control to the point to where I am now, where I'm doing, I did 14 years worth of short films and education, and have now released I'm getting ready to release a feature film. And it just, it snowballed wonderfully out of comparison to walking out of a movie theater in Cape Girardeau, Missouri with my girlfriend. I was just like, that sucked. I can do better. Do it.
And the name of that feature film?
Kill Giggles. I wish I had. I wasn't prepared for this. I should have like a cinematic background. Chris and Trinity have these very themed in background, and I'm like, fuck it, there's me. That was my second one. I'm done. I promise, dude. I know. I'm gonna get played off and muted.
How long have you been thinking about that film?
It took a long time. When it started off, it was going to be a short film, and I had 6 composition books full of clown death, which is going to come in really handy when I get committed someday soon, probably.
Yeah.
No, it's like Exhibit A through F. Okay. It was going to be a short, and actually at the bar at the Hilton, at Con Carolinas Hotel, was chatting with the bug. It's like, you need to make it a feature. I was like, well, then I'll make it a feature, and that was probably 2015. Maybe. And I just started writing. The writing period just took a long time. It made many evolutions and is now my first feature horror film. Many of the people here which were involved in various ways. So not all, but on the next one, totes everyone else.
That's right.
Like what I'm pointing to that you can't see.
I think for me, I grew up very introverted. And movies were a big solace for me. A big movie that sort of made a huge impression on me as a kid was Star Wars. It sort of took me to places I never thought I could go. It opened up my mind to things, and it also opened up my mind in how they make these things. I still have the VHS copy of the making of Empire Strikes Back, where they showed how to make all the different things, from the sounds of the lasers, which were just somebody hitting like a cable on a light bulb.
Yeah, that's right.
A pew 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 sound, or just how they did stop motion animation, or lightsaber effects, or any of that kind of stuff. I was always more interested in the hows of how they made these things. While other people had pictures of the teen beat person of the week. I was always wondering, what's Spielberg up to, or what's Sam Raimi up to. And growing up in high school, I again was very introverted, and I'd watch all kinds of movies and go to the theaters a lot. I managed a movie theater for 2 years, managed a video store for 7 years. So I've always sort of had jobs in the past where it allowed me to be around movies, but not really have the time to do them. So then when I got older, I made it more of a focus to do that, especially when I started submitting films to film festivals, because I really wanted to make stuff. I used to make little cheesy stuff on my own, but I didn't really get so dedicated to making short films. And in my first short film, which was actually a parody of John Woo films called Hard Stapled, we got into our first film festival and we won our first award for best short comedy. And so, as somebody that grew up loving horror films, I wanted to make horror films. And so, it's just more of I've always had that passion. I'm always surrounded by movies. Movies, for me, people will let you down, but movies won't. They're always there for me when other people aren't. And so it's just been, that invisible best friend that, that's my way of creating stuff. If, while other people are having families and kids, my kids are my movies.
How important was that first award in hooking you? I mean, did that immediate recognition just pretty much seal the deal?
Yeah. I didn't really expect it. I mean, for me, it was kind of cool to be at a film festival and people asking me questions about the film, and to win an award. I was like, what? Did somebody count the ballots wrong? I didn't really see myself winning. And still there's times now that, and there's a running joke of me calling me the award-winning filmmaker, Christopher G. Moore, which is just more of a joke than anything else. But I'm still always surprised when I win something, because, there's, you get rejected from things all the time.
You do.
You just have to get used to it. Not everybody's going to like your stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing how a film can get rejected by one festival and then win Best in Show in another.
Yeah.
So it's all subjective. Angela, if you don't know, is a scientist who Cures cancer and builds rocket ships and digs up dinosaur bones and does all the cool things I dreamed of when I was a kid.
Mostly these days, it's looking up weird chemicals and their histories. So,
Most awesome job ever. But what was it that got you into filmmaking?
Well, Paul Cardullo, who is a mutual friend, we were in a Japanese drumming group together. And he said that you guys were doing a trailer and needed extras. And that's pretty much how I came to meet with the Adrenaline and crew, which then became Sick Chicks. And how I got my first acting role with them. Basically, it's how do you feel about rats? And since I was one of the few people they knew that was perfectly comfortable dealing with rats, also snakes, spiders, and a lot of other things, they're like, here's your role.
Which role was that?
That was Teresa in Fistful of Brains.
Why did you have to worry about rats? Because the place we were working was so rat infested?
Actually, I think Pericles initially, Pericles Lewin, who I was acting with, at one point we thought he might bring his rats along. And they turned out not to be the case because his rats were getting old and he didn't want to risk them in a really kind of
horrifying.
Nasty, yes.
Yeah. It was what? I think it was, we measured it at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. It was some ridiculous, it was awful. Yeah.
It was awful. It's amazing how you can sweat and not show it if you wear the clothes right.
Well, you could sweat and not show it. Pericles looked like an extra from Spartacus. I mean, it was brutal.
It was. And then after that, I just got into the behind the scenes with it. I ran lighting on Mother, which was a short film we did, and sound on a bunch of them, and then camera. For I think Blood of the Mummy, which is our current movie, I did a lot of the second camera work, and then I'm planning on trying to direct something if everything settles down to the point where I can do it.
It will. Yeah, it will. And you should also mention you've written a book, and what you plan on directing is from your own screenplay.
Yeah. And I wrote another screenplay, which Catherine Madison will be directing.
Which I feel like happens to a lot of us, that we end up becoming directors because nobody else wants to work on our genius script. So Trinity, you have we talked earlier today just a little bit about your story. You've had an interesting journey, and you're just beginning, which is marvelous.
You muted her.
Who muted? Jason, did you mute Trinity?
Trinity and Richard are muted.
They are.
Yeah, Richard, you're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
I was muted by choice.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
At first I muted myself. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I muted myself, but I can't unmute myself. It says you cannot unmute yourself because the host muted you.
Oh, lesson
I
learned.
was sitting here frantically trying to unmute you because, dear God.
And Jason is just messing with our minds right now as he is.
The many wonderful things about Zoom. So I've known that I wanted to be a composer for film since I was 6.
Wow.
And it was when I saw Braveheart, and it was the execution scene. And being 6, I was very much emotionally moved by that scene. And I was like, I know it's the music. And I said, I want to know how to do that. I want to learn how to manipulate emotion, how to tell a story using music. So I studied music throughout elementary school or grade school, high school. And I come from a family of engineers and medical professionals. So they didn't really encourage me to get a degree in the arts. So they were like, well, why don't you do something science or math? So I studied forensic chemistry my first year of college. And I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't my passion. Freshman year of college, a childhood friend of mine had passed away. And it was just that wake-up call that life is too short. Do what you love, and the rest will follow. So I then transferred to UNC Chapel Hill and went for a bachelor's in music, concentration in composition, and graduated, lived the real world for a few years, and realized that I wasn't going to get anywhere with just composition. So I went for my MFA in film music composition at University of North Carolina School of the Arts, so NC School of the Arts. And from there, I went to Los Angeles because I received the Emmys internship in music and worked with television and film composers over there. But LA just wasn't for me. So after about a year, my husband and I were like, let's go back home to North Carolina. And although technically I'm originally from New Jersey, but North Carolina became our home. And from there, then I was offered a adjunct professor position at NC School of the Arts. And then I decided to hustle and became full-time in composition for film. So now I teach, and I teach networking classes, and I go around the festival circuit and teach filmmakers about the importance of film music and how to successfully work with a composer. Because something that I've learned in the indie film market is, or rather the indie film industry, is that if I want work, I have to create my own market. And how do you create your own market? Through educating. So yeah, that's pretty much my journey.
And definitely you perform a valuable service, because if there's any weakness in a lot of the indie films that we see, well, it's sound in general, but the score, because a lot of folks don't feel they have access to someone who has the talent to pull that off. And what a difference it makes. What a difference.
I mean, it's just interesting because, and we talked about this earlier today, is that
yeah.
I am an educator, but also I come from a family of scientists. And so I approach film scoring with the thought that film music is actually a science. And so after doing a lot of analysis and research, now I help to teach others about this science of the psychology, well, there's physiology, then going to psychology, and the creativity in storytelling and how themes are used to tell the story, you know, and it's another layer of storytelling that many people overlook. But it's like every Spielberg film, you can't think of a Spielberg film without John Williams. You can't think of a Christopher Nolan film without Hans Zimmer. You can't think of a J.J. Abrams film without Michael Giacchino, and so forth and so forth, you know. So
it becomes part of the brand.
My background, when I was a kid, my dad had a regular 8 movie camera, and I started playing with it, and I started shooting stuff around, and I wanted to do kind of narrative stuff. I kept making little short films. When I was 16 years old, I entered something in the local PBS station's Young Filmmakers Festival, and I won something. And that was the first time I ever won an award for anything. Now, I wanted to be a scientist. I was a major science geek. That was absolutely what I was interested in doing. I was determined that science was going to be my career and my life. But as I got into high school and such, I got more and more into filmmaking and more into drama. And I found out from my chemistry teacher that I was incredibly bad at math. And I didn't want to be a scientist who couldn't master. I felt like I'd end up doing nothing but quantitative analysis for Exxon or something like that, you know, if I couldn't be really good at it. So I decided I should change into something I had a chance of possibly being good at. I got involved with a local filmmakers club that is also where I met my wife, is also where I ended up forming a bunch of relationships. This was in Florida. Almost everybody moved to LA. We all ended up having careers in the business. We all helped each other out. I'm a big believer in local film communities because of that. It's where you network with people, and just like in film school, you make connections that you carry through for the rest of your life. I did work with one of the guys there who had a special effects company. So I started off shooting miniatures and doing animation work. I got a job doing TV news, first TV news editing and then TV news photography. I was promoted to chief photographer at my station and said, I want to go make movies. So I quit and moved with no job whatsoever to Los Angeles. That was probably a big mistake from any reasonable financial standpoint, as the years that followed were quite hard. Sent out a bunch of resumes. At the time, they had something called Drama Log, which is what actors would look in for things, like the Craigslist sort of thing. And they had a tech section. I blanketed everything. And one day, about a week and a half after I was there, I got a call. Said, yeah, we need somebody. Didn't say for what. Turned out it was just a grip. And it was on this really weird gay musical. it was a very strange film. I then, made a connection, but I got then a job working on a Roger Corman film, which I was super excited about, called Munchies.
Oh wow, yeah, I've seen Munchies.
Yeah. So I worked briefly on Munchies and got fired because they realized I'd never been on a movie set before. And it's true, I'd shot a million things, but I had never worked on a professional film set, so I didn't know the vocabulary, I didn't know the set etiquette, I didn't know the procedures. That's what prompted me to then kind of do this whole workshop I do on professional film procedures, because I'd shot lots and lots of stuff my whole life, but I'd never been on a movie set, a professional movie set, other than my own. So I didn't know the way they did things, and they picked up on that and let me go, just because I didn't know what a C-47 was. So ultimately, yeah, if you've ever been on a professional movie set, you know what that is, and if you haven't, come take my workshop and I'll show you. But anyway, I ended up from that. I wanted to be a director, but everyone and their brother shows up in LA wanting to be a director. So I went to be a cinematographer, because you have to work a light meter and show that you have some degree of technical skill. So I ended up becoming a cinematographer, which is fine because I love shooting movies. I love telling the story with a camera. I love, in the same way that Trinity was talking about music, the way you can complement the subtext and the text of a story through how you frame it and light it and do it. It means a lot to me. And I really enjoy doing that. And when you get to work with great directors, it's wonderful. I ended up, the people who I worked with liked me. I ended up getting relationships like you do for lots of films, shot tons of sci-fi, horror, and action, lots of Dimension films. And eventually a company gave me a shot to direct. And I directed Python, the killer snake movie, which did really well. At the same time, I got an offer to teach here. I had 2 young daughters, so I decided to move out of the Valley in LA, relocated to North Carolina, where I taught for 10 years and raised my kids. And then once they were grown, I kind of decided I wanted to go back to that gypsy lifestyle we have in this business. So now I am back full-time doing movie work. Mostly, I do cinematography work, but I mostly work as a post-production supervisor and visual effects supervisor these days. I'm still trying to produce things. I'm always looking for good material. I'll direct if I find something that excites me. I'm not as impressed by myself as a writer as I'd like to be. So if I'm the only one coming up with scripts, they're probably not going to be that exciting to me. So that's how I ended up where I am today.
That's a cool journey. I feel like it's not over yet. Some more chapters may be added to that.
It ain't over till you're 6 feet under, man. That's the one thing about this particular panel I want to say. It's like the journey doesn't end. I'm still doing stuff. I have a lot ahead of me yet to do, I sincerely hope. And I'm not done. This is not an industry where you retire. This is an industry where you keep doing it until you can't anymore, because it's not your job, it's your vocation, it's your life's work. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do this till I drop.
That's my hope. Far in the future, but that's definitely my hope. Thomas Gore. Of all the people, of all the stories, I suspect yours is the strangest one, and definitely the one that has the most things blowing up.
Yes, I can concur that. I was in the Army for about 20 years, and in that time, about my second or third deployment into combat, they said, hey, you're now going to start editing gun tape to send it forward. And I was like, oh, great, thanks, appreciate that one. And what that meant was I had to learn Adobe Premiere CS2, the premier editing suite for all our gun tape. I was an Apache pilot, and we would actually record our whole flight. Now, a lot of the flight is boring. It's mundane. It's just terrain flying beneath you at a high speed as you're searching and scanning.
And then someone starts shooting at you, and it livens up a little.
And then instantly it livens up. And what you say and what you do and how your aircraft is performing and where your aircraft is performing at and what it's doing. One, it's all secret information for obvious reasons, but it would be, your armchair quarterbacks, your politicians, your Secretary of State, your president, your British Prime Minister, the British Secretary of War, your Romanian War Secretary. These are the people that your allies are watching the gun tape, and saying, did you help their army? Did you help this? Did you help the cause? Were your actions legal and just by the law of war and everything else? And, no pressure at all that you are going to send yourself through an investigation in the Geneva Convention. You're going to prison in a gulag forever.
So you learn some good editing skills is what you're getting at.
So, and you get the gun tape, and you got to go through the whole 5-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour flight of footage. Sometimes it's dull and boring, and there's no events. Sometimes your crews are, and yourself as well, are like, hey, we got into 3 engagements, one 2 hours into the flight, one a half hour after that, and another one 3 hours later. So you write this down, and you go through the whole thing, and you set up your editing towards. And it's just video and the 2 audio tracks, the 1 audio feed and the 2 audio tracks that you're editing and chopping up and cutting. There's no music. There's no chopper sounds. It's just radio transmission dialogue and the gray footage, the gray-green footage that goes across the screen at 120 knots.
I bet Trinity could have scored that and made it a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
No.
That would have made it.
Just throw on Adagio for strings, you'll be fine.
Oh, Ride of the Valkyries. So wait, now, so when you got back to the United States and you were no longer encouraged to fire missiles.
Don't know. That encouragement is still there.
What?
Have you ever driven
what
on
kept
95?
you? I mean, what kept you in this business? I mean, what got you going?
When I retired, I realized I had to think, like, what do I want to do now that I have to grow up? I retired. I really don't have to work. I don't have to. My needs are met. My retirement income takes care of life.
Yeah.
So it's more or less, what do I want to do? And so I was like, you know what? I've done enough time destroying and blowing things up and smashing and trashing. So I was like, you know what? Let me flip the coin. And I started, the opposite of that. Let me start creating. Let me start building. Let me start doing something positive. And so I became an actor and a filmmaker and started using those techniques. Started studying movies. How did Stanley Kubrick do it? How did Spielberg do it? How did Guillermo del Toro do it? How did they continue to do it? Because we're going to see Stanley Kubrick's next movie. I know we are.
Oh yeah.
I'm still holding out for that one.
You had an enviable situation where not having to work is a great thing when you start out as an actor, and you're often not getting paid, which for most people could be starvation, but for you it was. So I would often hear from you, I'm traveling out to Wilmington, I'm going to do a day and get killed by Bill Goldberg, and I'm going out here and I'm going to get killed by Kane. You got killed a lot.
I get killed a lot. I'm giving Sean Bean a run for his money. That's for damn sure.
Patrick Keenan, dude. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh my Jeebus. Leave pickles out of this.
And now I know you're getting further and further away from the acting, although you'll still do a lot of acting because there is a law that says Tom Gore must be in all indie productions.
That is true.
Getting into
Even Jason B. Burns movies have me.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to run afoul of the law. See, this is the good thing about a panel this big is that we get all kinds of good stuff. The bad thing is we're going to get like 3 questions in if we're lucky, and then we'll be out of time. So let me just throw this out there to whoever wants to answer.
Let's do a speed round. Speed round.
What's that?
Speed
round. We'll go to a rest stop and we'll get like some mini thins and white crosses and come back and do this whole thing in like 20 seconds.
Get a pecan log. And so for people, people come up to you, and they come up to me anyway. It's like, how do I start? How do I get in there? And I think was it Richard? No. Joe Bob Briggs the other day had a great speech about this. He was talking about people say, I don't have any money, I don't have any equipment, I don't have any of this, and none of that's true anymore. There's nothing really stopping you from getting into this except your own self-doubts and everything. But what, given your journey, which is going to be different, obviously, if someone my age comes up and says, I've always wanted to make a movie and it's now or never, or if it's some kid who's just looking at you like you're a movie maker, stars in their eyes, it's going to be probably a different answer. But what is the best advice you can give to people other than just simply do it to get into this? Yes, Richard.
So you're talking about the money thing. It's like, you're right. When I started off, I was 14 years old and filmmaking was like my drug habit. because a 2.5-minute roll of Super 8 film cost $8 to buy and another $8 to process. And I was making $5 a lawn mowing lawn as kids. So, and every part of it went to film, of which I could shoot only 2.5 minutes for every lawn I cut. And
I remember it well.
And now you've got a phone, you can shoot stuff. Free software
Forever.
But the most important thing is people, because yeah, you can be a one-man band, but I'd say finding other people who share your interests and your love is the biggest thing. I've actually had to take a step back. So many filmmakers I know from Hollywood who've had actual career making films are taking the step back, and we're getting more into indie filmmaking because you have the ability to have control over it. You get to set who you work with, and there's just so many people who are passionate about it as opposed to, you know, the numbers guys. That it's really nice to connect up with other people who just have a fire to do what you want to do. So I would say the most important thing, through hook or by crook, find other people in your area who you can join your passion with and get out there and then start doing stuff. Because yeah, the tools are fairly available. If you got a phone, you can shoot something. But people are your number one asset.
Yeah, I feel like Angela and I, because our stories are kind of similar because we ended up in the same family, but that the fact that we fell into this strange little dysfunctional family of film lovers and we just kept going. Do you think if you hadn't, do you think this is something that you would have gotten into if you hadn't just met the right people?
I don't think so, because I have a lot of interest in,
right.
You know, I was also writing my first novel at the time, and you know, I met you guys, and it's like I like hanging out with these, and I can learn a lot, and it's near, and now I wouldn't give it up for the world because it's just awesome. And the 48-hour film festivals we did after like the first one really, really helped, because it's like it's stripped down. You don't have time to worry about it. You do it and it's done, and whatever it is, it is.
And Jason, you were saying that's what kind of got you into it too, the 48.
Yeah. I had friends that did the 48-hour when I was off in Hawaii on my honeymoon many moons ago. 15 years ago, this June 25th, actually. But was off there. I was just like, I wanted to get involved with that. I had to wait till the 2006 version came along. And I was, I participated as a team maker, I think about 3 years in that, and then took a step back, and then I was a judge for a couple of years. So I've been on multiple sides of it. I think no matter what level you're at in filmmaking, Hollywood, indie, I mean, bare bones, phone in your pocket, whatever like that, the 48-hour competition is an amazing exercise. It's a trial by fire at its finest. I mean, it allows you to test your creative, your productive, your administrative mettle. Can
I just say, for those who may be watching who aren't familiar with this, these are in many cities, 48-hour contests. On Friday, it's all over. Greensboro is one of the best ones. On Friday, you're given a genre, a few story elements like the name of a character, and a line or two. You then have Friday night to write the script, Saturday to shoot it, and Saturday night to put it all together. And by the Sunday, 48 hours later, you've got to
render
the finished product. And it can only be about 5 to 7 minutes long. It's not going to be your best work, but it's probably going to be the best you can do in 48 hours. And you're right, it is a trial by fire, but a great way to meet people. Great way to make some connections, and then hopefully make a movie. Yeah, and then maybe make a movie with a little bit more leisure time, like 72 hours or something. So.
Well, that's what prompted us to do it. I mean, we did the 48-hour twice, and I mean, I saw a lot of people. Or I was able to meet a lot of people that was all they did as filmmakers. They just did the 48-hour because everyone had real grown-up jobs and everything else. So like that was fine, but I kept finding more and more ideas and stuff that I hadn't seen before. I'm like, well, I want to see it. Well, then we're just going to go ahead and do it anyway. So like it went quickly from only a 48-hour thing to just, I mean, yeah, the magnificent, beautiful beast that it is now. So I mean, but it's amazing. I would never do it again in a heartbeat, but that's just because I'm old and cantankerous and grouchy and set in my ways. But I mean, it's an amazing exercise. It really, really is. And if it wasn't for that, I would not be at the point where I'm at as a filmmaker now. So I'm definitely grateful.
Well, you did something even worse. You were judging them for a while, which No
I'm
thanks.
sorry.
I lost a lot of friends because of that. Yeah,
I know. It's
Grown-ups that act like 12-year-olds. It's like,
a thankless. It's no fun. It's no fun judging a film festival, right, Jason? Just nod your head off screen somewhere. Yeah.
why did my film win?
Yeah. I don't want to bug you, but could you give me, here's 12 points on why it should be in your festival. Yeah. No names.
Well, it's a great exercise, though. I would tell my students, if you want to get into television, you can score a 48.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a lot of, I've done maybe 3 48s, but I'm just like, I like to score to picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very strict with the team that I'm working with. It's, look, you want me on your team and you want an original score to picture, you have to give me a rough cut by Saturday night.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask. That's
so then I can work on it Saturday. Well, I like to sleep, so maybe Sunday morning, because I'm used to working under a lot of pressure. I can get a score out, if it's for 5 minutes, I maybe need 3 hours. So, but still, it's like for my students who they're just trying to get maybe a minute and a half in a week, I'm like, you should do a 48 just to see, how to develop a template,
right.
how to communicate with your filmmakers, especially under a lot of pressure, how to develop themes, based off of the script that you get on Friday. So it's a great exercise, but
Tom, Tom's been helping with Sick Chicks, has been doing some 48-hour film festivals for the last few months, which has been a special challenge. We all have to film each other. Yeah. Yeah, and you've had some good stuff too.
Oh, it's been a great time. That's great fun. I highly encourage everyone to do a 48, at least one, if not 30.
Okay, Christopher is shaking his head. I was going to ask, have you ever done one?
No. You couldn't pay me enough money to do one.
Here's the thing. That kind of surprises me because your films, I'm not going to, don't get me wrong. Don't give me that look behind those glasses. I'm not going to say, your films look like they were shot in 40 hours. No, but you, okay. I said that's,
I'm glad we have to be PG-13 on this.
I said that's not what I was saying because if you've seen his films, you know that they're gorgeous. I shot a trailer for the, I edited a trailer for the festival, and I would have just used shots from his film because it's like the most beautiful film. It's absolutely gorgeous.
You can backtrack now because his DP looks like Wolverine. I get it, dude. I mean,
yeah. Well, he's also uber talented. But what I'm saying is, your films tend to be short, which is a gift, by the way. A gift that you possess, and a gift to everyone who has to review these things, because most films, even good ones, are not short enough, including many that I've written. They're short. They tell the story very efficiently. So I feel like you could do a 48-hour pretty well because you have a gift for doing a story that hits the beats, gets to the point, and doesn't overstay its welcome.
Well, but there takes preparation for that to happen. You have to have time for everything to it's like baking. If you rush it, it's really not going to be the same as if you took the time. You found all the ingredients that you need to make it properly, whether it's the music, whether it's setup of shots. I mean, yeah, that the movie is like 5 minutes, but there's one shot that took us close to an hour just to be able to, actually more than an hour. It took us, probably about six or 7 hours just between setup and shots, and it took us like 13 tries just to get one good shot.
How long was the shoot for Backward Creek?
It was 2 weekends and maybe an extra day. But yeah, I believe in preparation. I believe in taking the time to create something. I believe that the 48 hours it's a good experience. It's definitely an exercise, but it's an exercise that I think a lot of times can reduce the quality of. Not to say I've seen some great quality films come out of it, but I've seen a lot of films that if they'd taken the time, it would be polished and look a whole lot better. And I think being so rushed into it really makes you sacrifice a lot of things to not make the best film possible. And I want to make the best film possible. And it just seems too stressful. I don't want to deal with that. There's enough stress in filmmaking as it is without having to have everybody not get any sleep, trying to get everything done at the last minute. And I just feel like that the quality is the one thing you have to sacrifice sometimes in order to get it done.
We're already running out of time, and obviously, if we're talking about the journey, the question then is, where is the next step in this journey? Now, we are all, while this is being filmed, folks of the future, it's 2020, and just look up that chapter in your history books. It probably is about 300 pages long. Not much is going on now, at least getting out and doing things, but I'm sure a lot of planning is going on. What is next for you?
I'm helping out with the Sick Chicks on Adrenaline anthology, and I've got a couple NDAs that I can't talk about.
Ooh,
Sorry.
intriguing.
Yeah,
Someone
I'm
slipped
the
him a
worst
few
way to
beers.
start off that question.
Well, Man of Mystery, that's actually kind of cool. Jason, you've come to the end of a long, well, not the end, but the climax of a long journey to get Kill Giggles going. Is everything
Tantric
on,
filmmaking at its finest.
He's in the end game now.
is everything on your plate at this point just toward finishing, getting it out there, getting it seen, or are you thinking?
Yeah, it was supposed to be seen next weekend, and then the apocalypse, and then it was supposed to be seen the weekend after that, and then the apocalypse. No, we've got
apocalypse better.
No, yeah, I've written much better apocalypses. Apocalypses? Apocalypti? I don't know.
Yeah.
That was my third F word right there, just right out of the way. But no, I mean, yeah, we've got Kill Giggles ready. Our Foley hard drive is locked down in Austin, Texas, so we're redoing all of Foley. So we've got a little bit of audio engineering and voodoo to go and stuff like that. But we've got some good news, so hopefully we'll be able to make an announcement sometime soon and just sort of let folks know when and where they'll be able to see Kill Giggles. So it's coming. It's breathing hard right now. It's coming soon.
Oh God.
What? That was fine.
Nothing. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. Just look. You got Christopher Moore to hide his face in shame.
I know. Virtually, I did it virtually. Yeah.
It's the only virtue we'll ever hear from you.
Kind of in a holding pattern, but I'm planning on directing a film for the Sick Chicks anthology, and it's kind
that's
of
a screenplay you wrote as well, right?
Yeah, it's one of my little darker, weird things that I have in my spider world, as I call it, which is kind of a dark fantasy horror world.
It's a cool story. Do you feel that all the various hats you've worn in the different productions does that give you confidence in taking that big step into directing for the first time?
Yeah, because I kind of have a fairly strong picture of what I want out of that film. I have a good cast, assuming I don't lose them, because we're all in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
And I have choreographed mayhem planned, so.
I guess just trying to figure out what's going to happen with their sort of film fest tour, which I'm assuming some of it might be pushed off to next year, or it'd be one of those sort of things like some film festivals are doing with not being able to show stuff, but possibly, still awarding awards and stuff. But, we made this film as sort of we try to make it as best as possible because we want it as a calling card for a feature. I wanted a film that creates an iconic horror type character, a female villain, on the same level as Freddy and Jason and that kind of stuff. And so we want to make a feature film version, and we already have one guy who's going to be an investor. So we just have to basically get the script together and put everything together, what's going to cost and what we need, and then go from there. So that's the main thing, is hopefully being able to do a cool feature film. But on top of that, I'm working on my good friend Vanessa Wright. I'm working on a horror comedy type series. We may do as a podcast, possibly as an animated show.
Very cool.
And then also I've got an idea for a sort of a quarantine short that I'm mapping out right now, to figure out a way to do that. Because I think it'd be a fun exercise, but not a 48-hour film festival exercise. Yeah. So because I know that Nightmares Film Festival, which happens in Ohio, they actually just opened up a new category, shut-in shorts. So if you have any short films that are based in that genre or shot during the quarantine, you can send it in for just $5 to enter. So I'm thinking about doing that probably
Yeah.
next. Just as to sort of, because now I've got this creative itch. Now it's Backward Creep is sort of finished. I'd like to do something creative in this chaos.
Now the school year is finished, I actually I posted a call for projects because with a lot of productions have shut down, because usually I get involved in pre-production.
Right.
And they send me the script and then we start talking about themes and things like that. So things are just a little out in the open now, or rather they're just fleeting. So I just finished a short. I'm working on a puppet musical right now, and it's actually for live theater, so Broadway style. And then I'll be working on a horror drama musical, and I actually wrote a piece for it already. It was posted a while ago. It's called Dreg, so I'll most likely be working on that end of the month. And then I have like a few other shorts coming in. I was supposed to have like 2 or 3 features this summer, but no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's just shorts that people are able to put together. Again, the musicals. And then you and I talked about it and people are pushing me, but there's a short film that I would like to start writing. And basically the premise is the conversation that I wish I could have had with my mother before she passed away, but could not have had until after she did. So,
and if the rest of you had heard the whole background of that short description, you would also be urging her, as I am, to write that script because it is a wonderful story.
Thanks, Bill. No pressure. So yeah, creating in that front and probably going back to painting and baking a lot, getting fat, all
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Look at you.
Quarantine. I do yoga in the morning and, walking the dog,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Pretty
whatever.
soon Tom Gore will be able to hide behind you.
Yes.
Matter of time.
So let me shamelessly plug a couple of things upcoming, but then I also have a story I kind of want to button out with. It's not my story, it's somebody else's, but it fits this really well. So from my point of view, I've been working as a post supervisor, and I'm super excited about a film we have coming out called Becky, starring Kevin James in his first really dramatic, serious villain role, and Lulu Wilson from the Annabelle films and The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. It's a really good genre piece. If you like good, gory, bloody, action horror, I think you will find it an enjoyable film, and I highly recommend looking for it. It's coming out June 5th. Beyond that, I'm doing post on a film called Separation from the director who did The Boy, and starring Brian Cox, and that one should hopefully be out sometime in the future. Working on that right now and trying to get that out. Oh, and on Becky, we have a terrific soundtrack album coming out. First time we've had a soundtrack album for a while by Nima Fakara, who's our composer, and he's really good, and it's a terrific score.
Oh, Nima! I know Nima.
Yeah, he is great. I've got a couple of films that he has scored, and he is fantastic. I love his music, and his music on this is really great. Really adds a lot to the show. So, very excited about that coming out. So I just want to end with a little story because it seems relevant to this. Years ago, I did the directing workshop, the main photographic directing workshop, and the teacher was a gentleman named Alexander Singer. You've seen his work, you just don't know who he is. He's one of the amazingly prolific television directors. He's done Star Trek episodes, Voyager episodes. He did TV series, Lou Grant, Police Story, lots of stuff. But he was talking about how he had a friend who was a photographer, and Alexander Singer was always interested in doing movies. So he was doing storyboards one day, and he was storyboarding out all the shots he wanted for his movie. And his friend was looking at him and saying, "What's this all about?" And he says, "Well, it's storyboards for my movie." And he explained to him the whole idea of storyboarding and the idea of, telling your story through pictures and all this. He says his friend got very, very excited about that. His friend was Stanley Kubrick. And that was the first time, he said, Stanley ever got exposed to the idea of movies as a series of images that tell a sequence of stories and such. He said after that, that's when Stanley really got interested in doing film work.
Wow.
And since he went on to do Paths of Glory, and since we're talking about the paths by which we end up on things, I thought that was a somewhat relevant, bring it home sort of story here.
The circle of life. That was great.
He also did the wedding photos for Alexander Singer, who says, so far as he knows, he's the only person with wedding photos by Stanley Kubrick.
Nice.
There you go.
That's
Hopefully they're not cold and distant,
well,
like some of his movies.
Well, hopefully they're not eyes wide shut either. I mean, dang. Heck of a wedding. Thank you all for coming. And this
Cheers,
is
everybody.
almost as much fun as having you in person, but not quite, but it's still fun. So thank you all. And I hope you all learned something from this. And if you are a filmmaker, the one thing I can say about all these people, and virtually almost without exception, all the filmmakers, indie filmmakers I know, they would love to talk to you, give you some advice. You don't have to buy them drinks. It helps.
It helps.
Yeah.
It helps.
If you buy them a meal, they'll take you under their wing and just give you all kinds of good tips. We
Get a
love
producing credit.
Yeah, we love bringing people into the fold. It's not competitive. It's yes, we all compete against each other. I mean, there was a couple years where Foodie was just cleaning up and we were stabbing our little Christopher Moore voodoo dolls in the throat, but we got over it. And you know,
we're not supposed to stab them anymore?
No.
Not until the Knob Goblins feature comes out, homie.
Then just throw it into a fire.
My bad. I'm sorry, Chris.
Explains so much. You know, but we work on each other's stuff, and it's been just it's a great community. It really is. So much film is such a collaborative medium, and so you get a chance to collaborate with people. And I'd be happy to work with any of you that'll put up with me. So thank you all for coming, and I hope I'll see you all in the flesh pretty soon.
Take care.